2022 is only a week old, and already we've been gifted with the promise of new PC gaming tech. Is it worthy of our attention? Will it suck? Does anyone even care anymore? So, if you read my community posts, you might be aware that I've shelved this week's intended video idea for reasons I might explain later. Rather than upload nothing, I quickly delved into the emergency script archive in search of something I could bash together in a few hours, and found nothing. So I thought instead I'd just churn out some lazy reaction content to this week's news from CES. Starting with the elephant in the room, graphics cards. You'd think by now I'd be completely desensitized to all GPU releases after a year of the Scalper Pandemic, and you'd be right. On the other hand, while I've got my fancy RTX 3070, thank you very much, I still feel a responsibility to you guys out there looking to get a reasonably priced upgrade, and that's actually what might just have been announced, if they hang around in stores long enough to buy one. Once upon a time, the £180 to £250 price bracket was the sweet spot for gamers, and both AMD and Nvidia have just announced GPUs in this bracket. As I said in my 2022 predictions video, the RX 6500 XT could actually be some fresh water in the stagnant pond that is the graphics card market, especially as the new card is estimated to be closer to an RX 590 than the previously rumoured RX 5500 XT levels of performance. All of the cards announced so far have been 4GB models with a starting price of $199 US, which is probably about £180. On the one hand, that's disappointing for those looking to run new titles with bigger textures, but on the other hand, it should at least discourage miners. AMD also slyly released specs on the RX 6400, but had little else to say about it, including the launch price. It may be the case that it doesn't see an official launch outside of OEM pre-builts, which, from what I've seen so far, might not be a bad thing. With no official indications of performance, the best estimates come from Tech PowerUp, which places it alongside 2016's GTX 1050 Ti. This might be the least appealing GPU in recent memory. No doubt people will still buy it in droves, but still, if this is correct, maybe it should stay in the OEM machines? Nvidia's new GPU, the RTX 3050, is a good deal more exciting, looking to not only be about 20% faster than the 6500 XT, but also packing the benefit of DLSS compatibility and a more appealing 8GB frame buffer. I've been told off for being cynical recently, to which I'd respond, I'm only cynical if I'm wrong. I sincerely hope there's no reason to be cynical about the RTX 3050's $249 US launch price, but I can't help but notice that ASUS has a massively overkill, high-margin Strix model that will doubtless cost way more than that, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if that's the one that finds its way to shelves on its release at the end of January. Let me know in the comments if you want to see me try and get my hands on one or both of these cards. Of course, I have no secret industry contacts, so I have about as much chance of getting one as you do, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Oh shit, I almost forgot, there's a 3090 Ti too. I know you weren't going to buy it, but just in case, don't buy it. Finally, on the Intel front, nothing as yet. That's not to say there's nothing to report. Intel did release some marketing material about Arc GPUs making their way to laptops soon, though there's still no real data, and you guys haven't seemed that interested in laptop gaming so far anyway, so I'll refer anyone interested to Dave2D and Hardware Canucks for more on that. On the rumour mill, however, there has been some stirring. Apparently a Sandra benchmark leaked for an Arc A380, 128 execution unit desktop card that competes with the GTX 1650 Super and RX 580. If my worst fears aren't realised, this could be a very good sign for Intel's new range of graphics cards, though of course leaks are usually strategic, and you should probably wait for some more concrete evidence before making any judgment calls. As it seems I only talk about GPUs, you might think that I don't have much interest in CPUs, and in a normal year that will be far from true, but obviously I don't encourage many of you out there with R9 290s and GTX 1060s to look too hard at new CPU platforms for the time being. Intel are winning the game right now with their mainstream locked 12 series processors looking like being the budget CPUs of choice for 2022, and their newly announced KS range of CPUs is serving to consolidate their position at the top of the gaming performance table. The latter's a pretty surprising move considering how new and dominant the regular K models are, which might suggest that Intel is worried about AMD's Zen 4 CPUs due later in 2022. On the other hand, maybe this is the jump some holdouts need to convince them to pull their wallets out and invest in Intel rather than gamble on what Team Red has up their sleeves in 6-9 months' time. Speaking of AMD, their new Ryzen 7 5800X3D looks like an exciting bit of tech, at least on paper. Despite lower clocks than the preceding 5800X, the 3D cache seems to be just the kind of innovation AMD have become known for in the last half-decade. Alas, I wish it hadn't come in the form of a placeholder product. I understand from a business standpoint AMD felt the need to keep up the pressure on Intel, and if the new CPU does in fact prove to be faster than competing Intel chips, that would certainly look good on the investor report, but I don't think it's a particularly consumer-friendly move. Sure, some skinflints like me will probably pick one up if only to save having to buy a new motherboard and DDR5 RAM next year, but CPU enthusiasts are essentially being milked twice in 2022. This might prove to be an earth-shattering success, especially if the price is right, but it could equally be another Ryzen XT series situation. Remember those? No, exactly. That's not all from AMD, however. Like Intel, they announced some new laptop SKUs, and like Intel, I didn't really pay too much attention to them. However, the new 6000 series does feature something a lot of you have been looking forward to: integrated RDNA 2 graphics. Core counts and clock speeds on these chips seem to be in line with that of the RX 6400, which, as previously mentioned, should be on par with the GTX 1050 Ti. Pretty incredible for an iGPU, though it will of course depend on power, cooling and RAM speed, and also begs the question, if integrated graphics are this good, why is the RX 6400 looking so terrible? This raises hopes for super slim gaming laptops and ultra small form factor NUC type desktops, and has people positively salivating over the potential this iGPU could have in a hypothetical desktop chip. Anyone waiting for such a chip will have to wait till the second half of 2022 at the absolute earliest. So I'm not really a news channel, and I really kind of rushed this script, so I didn't have time to look at everything released at CES, but here's a few things that caught my eye. Chevy released a new Silverado EV. I don't care about cars, least of all American cars that will never make it to the UK, but the name reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons. Sony have announced the PSVR 2 headset, which probably won't be PC compatible, but as the console it's designed for only exists in the liminal space between awaiting stock and out of stock, it might be a good business move if it were. Cyberpower's Kinetic case has a fancy gimmick in the form of motorised vents, though their products don't usually make it to these shores, and besides, that seems like a bloody stupid thing to waste money on to me. More attractive to my eye is the Phanteks Evolve Shift XT, a mini ITX case with adjustable height to allow for different cooling options. I keep saying one day I'll make an ITX build, and I never get around to it, but if I were to do so, this case has just jumped to the top of my wish list. Finally, for those into handheld gaming, the new Aya Neo has been announced, featuring a new Ryzen CPU and up to 32 gigs of RAM. It's not a Steam Deck, and doesn't use one of the new RDNA 2 powered APUs, so I don't see there being much interest in this except in a very small community of users. And even then, Vega? Again? And that's your lot for this video. Sorry it's a bit content light. Like I said, I actually completed a video in which I cast a critical eye over AMD FSR, and whether there's actually any point to using it instead of just running at lower resolutions. When it came time to publish, I got a bit nervous. There are some pretty sensitive people out there who might not take too kindly to me saying something negative about a universally loved system like FSR, For the time being, it's going to sit on my hard drive until I decide what to do with it. In the meantime, I'm spending this weekend comparing 3 AMD GCN graphics cards using the last official driver release, 21.5.2, against custom drivers from a Merenime zone. All going well, that video should go live next Friday. In the meantime, thanks for watching, kindly do the usual YouTube things if you feel so inclined, and I'll see you next time.